feeling kind of quiet out here. I got these painted flowers on my wall. I got Sid Caesar on TV being interviewed by the guy who created Arrested Development, the guy who had a late night show after the Daily Show. I want to get some music in the air, man. Guitar daddies and kazoo daddy. Got three guitars. Here's a Fender. I saw that Les Paul and I don't know. Music. Just shake it up. Start with a musical number, you know. This is an old one. People might remember. I don't know, should I write some new songs? I deconstructed my rock and roll music career in 2017. I don't know, but I've been feeling the urge to play music recently for some reason, but not really. I don't know. It's live stream time. I mean, nobody starts watching until I do this for like 2 hours anyway, so the first 2 hours don't even fucking matter. But maybe people will go back and watch it later. I don't know. It's the weekly address. I'm trying to tether the live events with the web presence, with the Scenes from a Life fictional universe, with Midwood Telecommunications, telecom headquarters out here that we have. As you can see, we have the editing suite. We are here live in the editing suite. I'm working hard this week. I worked hard last week. I work hard next week. I work hard all the time. I'm always working. People think I'm lazy. It hurts my soul when they think that. I work harder than anybody because I work smarter, and that's why I have nothing, because I'm light years ahead of the competition. It's called Avant-Garde. Look into it. Well, in any case, there's some events of the week to recap. That's probably the most of what I'm going to talk about. The open mic prom, of course, was this Monday, May 8th. I thought it was a lovely evening. It was a lovely kind of spring kind of serenade was in the air. It felt like the Magnificent Ambersons. It just felt like a grand ball in the grand ballroom on the third floor. You know, all the great. You're not really rich unless you have a ballroom, and the ballroom's always got to go like on the third floor, on the top floor of the house. For some reason, they always put the fucking ballroom in the air, someplace like really hard to get to, like the Magnificent Ambersons, right? That whole fucking movie is like these tracking shots. That's how the open mic felt. The open mic felt like Wells' lost masterpiece. It got mangled by the studio. You know, Wells was a failure too. Okay, his whole life he made one movie that people liked, and then the rest of his life was just a struggle to get anything done at all. Because the studio sabotaged him. He was kind of beleaguered with kind of B-list kind of projects. He did the best he could, and then his kind of Shakespeare adaptations, you know, he'd try to get funding. You know, I think he had some kind of lavish, you know, he's always dining in nice restaurants, ordering tons of food. I'm sure he stayed in nice hotels. So, you know, Orson Welles spent, you know, most of his life, I think, probably feeling some kind of, like, deep ache because, you know, he couldn't reach that high again. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm imagining that, but or projecting that on the great Orson, the great wizard and magician and show person, theater kind of spectacle. I mean, I don't know, the War of the Worlds thing, that's almost like some kind of trolling web stream. That's all, you know, War of the Worlds is like, now it's like aliens. People still think the Chinese spy balloons are aliens and shit. Orson Welles would be on Twitch. He'd probably fake some kind of, I don't know, live shooting or something. I don't know. The open mic prom was fun. It was super fun. super talented people came out. Sorry, I gotta skip Mark Cuban here. Oh, my monopod is on the mouse pad. My tripod's on the mouse pad. Skip Mark Cuban. Skip. Okay, fuck. The mouse pad doesn't work that well on your lap. Okay. God, yeah. Now I'm just joining the the throngs of unfunny comedy podcasters out there. Yeah, and I want to talk about. So yeah, the open mic prom was a hell of a lot of fun. I had my tricycle, my pimped out. Well, here's the story with that. Okay, maybe I should just go right into it. And then I'm also going to talk about the reading Tuesday at Unnameable. They did the roulette reading, which was amazing and fun. So I'll talk about that too. But so I brought my pimped out tricycle to the I've wanted to do something on stage with like a children's play set, because one time when I was on shrooms in Vermont on Mount Snow, with Wavetable and company, shout out, Nevin's siblings had, like, it may have even been, wow, that's crazy, had this fucking, play set that was like, a kitchen. You know how they have, like, when little kids, they have, like, a kitchen. It's like a toy for little kids. It's like a miniature kitchen. It's like conditioning you for your future role as like a house servant or whatever. Subservient. It's a role-playing thing. I don't know. I think it's cool. I like, it's like miniature doll houses, but you know, the miniature kitchen I had when I was a little kid. You got little dishes, you got a little sink. It's all pretend though. Pretend refrigerator is plastic. You know, it does, you know, pretend food is plastic. But it's like kind of smaller, but it's still kind of, you know, it's like about, I don't know, quarter scale or something, maybe, I don't know, 10th scale. And I think it may have been his siblings, who now lives in Brooklyn. I could be wrong about that. But anyway, they had this fucking play set in his family's place in Vermont. And so they had it in their living room while we were on shrooms, and I got on top of it, and I was standing on top of it, and in the inspiration and the total of receiving Godhead that is being on shrooms, I had the inspired vision of, like, I was trying to ollie. I was trying to, like, kickflip the kitchen playset. So I was like, you know, I can kind of pop it up, and, like, you could kind of get it up in the air a little bit. But I remember thinking to myself, man, like, I really want to have one of these on stage. It became my dream at that point to have, like, one of those little play sets on stage. Some kind of little kitchen. Or, you know, one of those little houses would be great. You know how they have those little houses for little kids? They're, like, entirely plastic. At least they were in the 90s. I don't know if they still have those. Maybe they're ethically bad for the environment or something. But they're incredibly good for children. They're so fun. I mean, there's nothing more fun as a kid than having your own little space. Your own little house within the house. Your own little world where you could pretend to be adults and make, you know, I don't know, pretend food out of mud or whatever. This one kid, Josh Height, made pretend joints out of grass. We had no idea what he was doing. I had no idea what he was doing. But you're, like, pretending to be adults in various ways. And, God, I hate it when they do portrait mode on YouTube. Jesus. So, yeah, I live out here in Midwood, and it's kind of a dead zone as far as youth active, at least, like, there's nothing cool. It's a family neighborhood, and it's quiet. They want it to be quiet and safe, and not lit at night. Not exciting. They don't want it to be like a destination. It's just families and it's quiet. And so living in this building, there's all these little kids running around, and that's cool. That's fine. Um, but like, so I walk out, and in the stairwell there's all these like little bikes and shit. There's like little kid bikes because they store them out there, and so that's cool. It's whatever. I'm smoking a joint, and I'm trying to not be obnoxious about it and get these little kids high or something. I'm trying to like face the wall or something away from the street. But anyway, so like I'm down in the basement last night or the other day. Kuzu Daddy has been kicking. He's very critical. And he's just thinking I gotta do stuff. I gotta do new stuff on the show. I gotta keep it exciting. I'm getting lazy. The show is not as, the show. He says, "Oh, the show's not as popular as it was." He thinks it's, which is not true. I mean, it's springtime and people. There's a lot going on. People want to be outside. I get it. It's cool. We're still having an exciting thing. I mean, the open mic prom was one of the biggest nights we ever had. It was awesome. So it's kind of, it's a good kind of kick in the butt a little bit. I don't really like criticism. But now I'm like, okay, let me shake it up a little bit in the beginning, when I do my 5 minutes or whatever at the very beginning. For National Poetry Month, I was reading poetry every week. My focus was on poetry, and I used the show as my diary. It's a running, it's a serial diary in poems. So every week you hear me read a poem that sort of it's my opening monologue, right? In poetry. And so, but I'm like, okay, let me do something different. It's not National Poetry Month anymore. I did 4 weeks of poems in a row, and even more. I've really been doing poems pretty much exclusively since like December or something. When I just decided it's going to be my opening monologue, and it's going to be sort of like, I'll just read my diary poem from that week. But I was like, okay, that's fair. How do we keep, let's make this exciting, And I it's fun. Let's have fun, And so I was downstairs in the basement. We were loading some equipment for something, the sound bath thing, I think they did. And I see, because all the trash is in the basement, right? I see a little kid tricycle. It's like a plastic. It's not a tricycle. It's like a 3-wheeler. It's not a big wheel. When I was a little kid, I had a big wheel. I don't know if they still make those anymore. Oh, I loved having a big wheel. Having a big wheel is like you're low to the ground, and you got the big wheel on front, right? And you just pedal the wheel. It's almost like having a race car when you're a little kid. And there's 2 wheels on the back. Do they still do big wheels? I'm not sure. Oh, did I turn the comments off? Fuck. I hope I turned the comments off. I might have to start over if I didn't turn the comments off. I have to censor the. So yeah, I had a big wheel when I was a little kid. That front wheel gets tore up. The plastic just gets destroyed on the sidewalk. You're riding it, on the sidewalk or whatever. But when you're a little kid, it's like you can pretend you're on a racetrack, you're in a video game, whatever. It's fun as hell, is what I'm saying. That scooter, right, that I have is like, it's like an adult big wheel. It's just fun. All modes of transportation should be as fun as possible, if possible, I think. I mean, flying is terrifying. Driving is sort of a nightmare in our current society. Trains are amazing. Subway can be, threatening. So anyway, I find this fucking tricycle in the trash, and I'm like, okay, I'm taking this fucking thing. I'm taking this to the prom. It's gonna be my prom limousine. It's gonna be my prom fucking ride. And I'll do some kind of funny thing on stage with it. You know, this is as close as I've ever gotten to having the little kid kitchen. I got my fingers crossed. Here's hoping I find one of these. Here's hoping I find a little kid kitchen. That's my ultimate dream on stage, to have a little kid kitchen. Like for System Lord, that would be the ultimate. And just like do some kind of crazy theater. It's like a theater set. You know, it's like a piece of fucking, like one of those Rauschenberg pieces for theater. Those sets that he designed. The little house for little kids with little chairs. And I mean, those houses are incredible. There's doors on them. I like any of that stuff. I'm fascinated by any of that. Power wheels. Power wheels are a recurring thing in my poetry. It was my dream as a little kid to have a power wheel. See, I only had a big wheel. A power wheel was pow, power wheel. That was the commercial. A power wheel was like a fucking car. You know, like you're a fucking 4-year-old kid, you got a car. That's as fucking, you know. I mean, I had one of those cars, but it was like a Flintstones car. It was like orange with like a horn. It had a door on it. The door added to the verisimilitude. The feeling of this is a real car. But like you're still, you know, it had a roof on it. But you had to pedal it with your feet. A fucking Power Wheel had like a battery and shit. I don't know, you charged it? What, did you plug it into like a fucking wall in your garage or something? That was like a class distinction. If you were able to afford a fucking Power Wheel, you were a class enemy. There's no way we could have ever had space or, you know, like we were moving around. There was no way we could have held onto a Power Wheel. First of all, they were like over $100, which adjusted for inflation, I'm sure a Power Wheel now is like $500 or $600. There's probably all kind of like, Alex D'Agostino sounded great this week with the Bob Dylan cover. We're gonna do a Bob Dylan week. I should announce it now. This is a preview for all the deadheads out there, all the true Easy Paradisers out there. This is a preview for all the exclusive fan club, the platinum level fans out there. How you guys doing? This is the weekly. So we're doing Bob Dylan week, May 22nd. All right, double two, twice the two for Bob. So yeah, we have to do a Bob Dylan. I think Bob's birthday is the 24th. So bring your Bob Dylan on 5/22. I'll be starting. So, you know, I'm trying to shake it up. I had the I would love to have a Power Wheel, but this week I had the tricycle. I should apologize. I should say that, like, it was irresponsible, but I don't know. It was. I just thought it'd be a fun. I had to do something to pop it off at the beginning. You know, it's the prom, and you know, I did want to do something special for the prom. And I found that thing in the garage. And so I found it, and I'm bringing it back up to the apartment, and Kuzu Daddy sees it, and he's like, what's that? And I'm like, you know, I'm taking it Monday. I'll use it at the beginning of the show. That'll be my opener. I'll ride the fucking, the tricycle. It's like a, what's that? Like, it's almost like a 3-wheel motorcycle. Kind of like that motorcycle that Elvis had. But it's like for kids. I mean, it's a really cool little thing if you're a kid. You know, I can't believe they just got rid of it. I was riding it around after the gig. It was fun. After the open mic, they were pushing me around 2nd Avenue. It was phenomenal. It's really a pretty badass mode of transportation. I mean, it's hard to get your legs kind of around the pink handlebars. But I knew it was going to be clownish. It was like when Krusty you know, in that episode where Krusty and Homer are like both wearing the clown makeup, he rides that little tricycle through the loop thing. I was like, okay, this is a classic clown bit. The tiny bicycle. You know, I'll ride my tiny bicycle out since I'm a clown. Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm experimenting with the comedy stuff. You know, I'm having fun with it, and I'm kind of trying to do it. You know, I don't know. That was a dream come true. That I was able to fulfill years long stage aspiration, and I did get reprimanded. Uh, You know, it's understandable. It's an irresponsible thing. And like at one point, okay, so I almost forgot it. I was just gonna go out and go, hey, and if you watch the video at the last second, I turn around because I had it over by the console, and so I ride the thing out. You can't even see it on the video. You can't even fucking see it. So it was really a live moment for the people there. They saw the tricycle in action, me kind of roll up. You know, it's like in wrestling. You know, sometimes Hulk Hogan will come out on his fucking motorcycle or whatever. Or, you know, Eddie Guerrero had that car that for some reason that's exciting. When a vehicle comes into like a performance space, it's almost like, you know, it's like the next best thing if I would have brought like an animal in. You know, it's like a vehicle coming in on stage is like, whoa, sweet. There's a fucking car on stage or a motor. He rode his motorcycle down the Titantron ramp. Wow. What a badass entrance. It's like, he didn't need to do that. It's 90 feet. Like, he fucking, you know, he could have parked outside or backstage or something. He didn't need to park it at the ring. It's not like he just rode the fucker in. He's been waiting backstage on it. It's just like it's a swag, you know. It's you know, when we were in LA, it's like the car wash apparently is like the place that people hang out. Not in LA, but I guess like well, fuck. Do I even know what I'm talking? I'm gonna sound like an idiot if I talk about this. I'm not even gonna go into this. I'm just gonna sound dumb. So anyway, yeah. For obvious reasons, I rode my pimped out tricycle into the Easy Paradise Prom. I don't know. I was just trying to recapture some of that innocence and some of that magic. Give it kind of a, you know, a fun spin rather than making it like a Met Gala theme. Maybe I should have done that. I kind of didn't. You know, I think I talked about that last week, but yes, thank you. Yeah, I was trying to do tricks and shit. You know, I was trying to do like a wheelie. You know, okay, I did want to talk about this. To me, the freest people in life are those guys, and they're like mystic. They're like mystical like sprites because they just kind of show up at random times and just kind of sprinkle like gold dust over your experience. Those guys who are riding their bikes through New York City streets and they're just like doing wheelies. They're just like doing wheelies like forever. You know, like they have some kind of custom bikes or something where like literally they just get up on their back wheel and they just do a fucking wheelie like forever. They're just wheeling down 6th Avenue. That to me is like the ultimate symbol of freedom. Like those guys and gals and non-binary friends on just doing endless wheelies. I don't know how they do it. To me, I don't know if they do that in other cities, if that's just a New York thing, but like, it's magic. And the dudes on the fucking in the like kind of Mad Max like moped ATV. They have these mopeds and these ATVs with just like these screamingly like high pitched kind of throttles. And they just, you know, they rove. They rove in tremendous numbers down 6th Avenue. You'll hear them thronging. It's incredible to behold, truly. It's one of the marvels of, it's truly marvelous in the modern, you know, I don't know if they do this everywhere. I think they did it in Columbus. When I was in Columbus, you see it a little bit in my videos there. So maybe it's just a ubiquitous, it's like a Fast and Furious fucking, you know, apparently the 10th Fast and Furious of the saga. Why the fuck not? You know, why the fuck not make 10 of them? Is coming out, so, you know, car culture, high octane. I got my scooter. That's my fucking Mario Kart life, you know. It's beautiful. Everybody should have some kind of speed. I'm into go-karts, big wheels, tricycles. That's my shit, as you can see. I'm like a Harley guy, but for like, you know, toy shit. Golf carts, I'm into golf carts. Any kind of like, you know, anything as a little kid you would have been like obsessed with. Like, oh my god, go-karts. I want to own a go-kart. That was like my dream when I was like 12, 13. It's like, oh man, that would be the coolest thing in the fucking world, to own a go-kart. Like, holy shit. One time, actually, swear to God, this was probably the greatest thing that ever happened to me in my life, actually. Now, looking back, this was maybe the greatest thing that ever happened to me in my life. I think, was it Jimmy Martin? I think it was Jimmy Martin. It may have been Jimmy Martin. It had to have been. Sold us this fucking... It was literally a go-kart, except you pedaled it. It had a fucking steering wheel and 4 wheels, and you sat in it and pedaled the fucking thing. And it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me in my life. I mean, it was literally, you know, in the 90s, this was like 1994 or whatever. You couldn't just order that shit off the internet or something. The internet didn't exist. Okay? Okay, fucking Gen Z, get that through your head out there, okay? The internet did not even fucking exist. We didn't even know what it was. It was not a part of our lives. We were unbeknownst to us what was about to happen. We were naive. We were naive. Would that we could go back to a simpler time before the iPad toddlers overran society and the AI just like swallowed us whole. This was before, you know, this was back, I had a fucking go-kart that Jimmy Martin sold to me for $12 in a personal transaction. Maybe it was, he took it back though. Apparently it wasn't his, or I don't remember. Classic hillbilly shit. Classic Wood Hill hillbilly shit. Jimmy Martin, man. He was red-haired and freckled and had a rat tail. He had the ultimate rat tail lifestyle. And he was a pure at heart person, but he sold me a go-kart for 12 fucking... I mean, I knew it was too good to be true. There's no way that things like it was like that apartment I had. You know, it's like those things don't last forever. You get those things for a little while, and then God takes them away. You can't play with your toys. You have to be disciplined. You have to do your Hail Marys and your... At least, I don't know. That's the brainwashing I received, you know, in my early childhood before, I don't know. It really does seem like over the last 15 years, definitely the Catholic Church has, like, changed. And so that plays into it as a cultural molding device. But, yeah, I had a go-kart for, I think, like a day. Oh, my God. But it's like, where do you can't keep something like that. Like a bike, you know, you can lean it on shit, you lock it up, you put it on your patio. A go-kart is like, you know, only rich kids have go-karts, okay? It's like ponies, you know? You know, like for little girls, like, they want a pony. I wanted a go-kart. Where are you going to keep a pony? You know, where are you going to keep a go-kart? You can't. There's no room for that, you know, like in our apartment, you know, across from the electrical power plant and the train tracks in Goodale Boulevard in Columbus, Ohio, across from the Grandview Pool. Go-kart lifestyle, man. Living across from the pool with a go-kart. God damn, it was sweet. Life was sweet. But then I had the scooter. That was really as good as it ever got. Riding a scooter in Manhattan is pure nirvana. You want to experience nirvana? Get a fucking e-scooter and just ride it around Manhattan in the bike lanes. West Village, forget about it. Forget about it. It does not get any better in life. Here's my according to Jim clips. I do just want to call attention to that. Hopefully the copyright... hopefully the copyright spiders or tarantulas or whatever they have that are just like scanning the internet and like scouring the internet constantly. Just let the freedom happen, okay? Let us, like, I've had to watch According to Jim. I didn't have a fucking choice, okay? I did not have a choice. It's something that culturally has polluted the airwaves, and so I'm repurposing it like a bird using plastics to build its nest out of, and laundry detergent bottles. Choking to death on According to Jim. We were poisoned. Our natural fucking beauty. Our innocent, lamb-like bodies. And Boy Meets World. Okay, so I'm definitely going to talk about my stand-up set. I did stand-up thanks to my manager, Sarah Ossett. Sarah Ossett's my new manager. She got me the gig. It was incredible. I should talk about, okay, because I did have incredible luck with the stand-up sets this week. I went on last at both open mics. I showed up literally right before they were about to end. I didn't have to watch anybody. I went on last, and I did pretty good. And then I left immediately afterwards. You cannot have a better time at an open mic. You show up, you go up, and you leave. You don't. I mean, I love open mics. I love watching people. Don't get me wrong. I'm just kidding, but it was clearly the comedy gods are saying, "Hey, come on in." So my manager Sarah Ossett got me the gig. There was one piece of paper on the table, and I saw it there. I saw the bucket and everything. I just thought, "Nah, this is too. There's too many." It was like, there were a lot of people in that, kinda. There was probably 15, 20 comedians. And it's Brooklyn, like most of the comedy open mics I've done, believe it or not, have been in Manhattan. And it is a different vibe, big time. And in some ways, maybe the Brooklyn comedians are, I don't know, I don't want to say anything divisive. It's like alt, so it's like more hipster, so it's more, I don't know. Although a lot of the stuff I've done in Manhattan is pretty weird and interesting, as far as like, the Other Side of Comedy event, I would say is pretty like avant-garde and new, in a way that is different than a lot of the alternative stuff that I saw in Brooklyn in like the 2010s at like Littlefield, because I lived in Park Slope. So I would go to comedy shit from time to time just because there's so much of it out there. Kurt Braunauer Hot Tub or whatever was every week. So it was like $5 to get in. I think that's where I saw Kevin Meaney. I saw John Benjamin one week. Like, of course I was going to go see these guys live. I'd only seen them, my whole life fucking on TV. Like, I can't believe I saw Kevin Meaney. My favorite comedian of all time. Shout out to Kevin Meaney. I know I'm all over the place here. I kind of want to tell these stories chronologically, but the stand-up comedy thing kind of jumped out. I was talking about the prom and my awesome tricycle. But I should mention that I did... so I was trying to do sweet tricks, right? I was trying to do a wheelie. I was trying to do like that thing where they like... Yeah, I got excited about the guys who do the endless wheelies. So I was trying to do that thing where they like get on their front tire and they like... I don't know how to do any of this shit. Let alone like on a child's fucking toy. I thought I could grind on something maybe, or I could hop it, like if I could just do some bunny hops and some freestyle walking, kind of spin it around maybe a few times, and but what happened instead was like I tried to do a wheelie and it ended up I was standing on the hind wheels and ended up kind of popping out from underneath me, and no one was hurt. I mean, there was no injuries. The footage looks fantastic. It looks like some kind of like, highway patrol show where, the car hits the overpass or whatever. It's like the motorcycle flies out from under me and then it kind of it almost hits the camera, basically. Shout out to MCP MP3 for the amazing true life footage. of the I don't know. I wish I could. I was exhausted. I got to tell you, that little bike wore me out. I'm not used to riding child's tricycles recently. It's been years. It's been years. And so the whole next day, and I mean, even today, I'm still sore. Yesterday, I was freaking tired. I was really tired yesterday. My legs were killing me. All my muscles were, because it's just unnatural. You're like, and I don't know. If you notice, so immediately after the fucking tricycle, I played a song, right? I thought it's the prom, it's rock and roll high school. Fucking Kuzu Daddy, literally the other day we're in the living room, he whips out this Gibson Les Paul. It's literally an actual Gibson Les Paul. Like, it's not a fucking Epiphone, it's not a knockoff. It's like, it's a nice goddamn guitar. And so I'm like, fuck it, like if we want to up the production value of the show and do something special for the prom, I was picturing, like Rick Springfield or Maroon 5 playing like the prom episode of like the Beverly Hills 90210 reboot. Like, let me get my Gibson Les Paul out and guest starring, Frankly Fabulous at the Easy Paradise Prom. We had a lot of great musical acts, of course. We had AA as well. Shout out to AA covering whatever the fuck that twee music was. Sarah Records. Something about a girl or something. I don't remember the name. I'm not as hip. That's not Britpop, but I'm not even versed in Britpop either. Okay? Let me just be upfront about that. I don't even know anything about Britpop, okay? I don't know that much about Britpop. It's a weakness I have. It's my Achilles heel. Yeah. If you notice, as I'm playing the song, I was out of breath. I don't know why. If I'm out of shape or something, maybe, I did live in that apartment that was on the 4th floor, so I was constantly going up and down stairs. I felt like that kept me in shape. Maybe now that I'm on the 1st floor, like, maybe I'm not walking as much. Maybe I'm out of shape. I don't know. It wasn't uncommon for me at Holy Smokes concerts to get, like, winded because of something that I did, so I did, like, this whole thing where I ran out into the crowd, and I wanted it to feel like the prom scene from, like, She's All That, or some 90s movie or 2000s movie, or like, what's Euro Trip? Where they have like a big, like, California style ska party in a backyard with like a pool, but it's like prom, or it's like, they just graduated high school or whatever the fuck, it's old school. They have like this big backyard party with like Snoop Dogg and shit. I wanted to feel like that. I wanted to feel like, whoa, we got this sweet band playing the prom. Woo, everybody's dressed up, Even though everybody's playing music and everybody's sweet, and, But I thought the Gibson Les Paul added some kind of LA style, Beverly Hills high school style, Hollywood production value in a way that, like, clearly it was like the thing was modeling itself. And this is something I'm doing constantly, is like modeling it on movies or other resources, This week the open mic is Beatnik Cafe, Coffee House, or whatever. This week it's the prom. Maybe we should have done an Oscar special. the Easy Paradise. I should go back and watch On Cinema, because, part of what I'm trying to do is weave it all together and make it like a running narrative show. where it's tied together and there's sort of like maybe like a fictional kind of through line, like on Cinema at the Cinema. You know, it's like these characters have this whole kind of backstory that they've created through this little window of like, you know, the 15-minute show about movie reviews that they do. It's like, I do kind of want to play with that, you know, like, the open mic is a similar thing where it's like, it's a live show, it's in this theater, it's every week. So it's like, if you want to present a fictional universe through, like, the lore, right, of the characters, that's something I want to play with and kind of develop, you know. Having narrative through lines that go every week. But now, you know, doing these theme shows is kind of a fun way to just kind of like distinguish the shows, give people something to play with if they want to. They don't have to. You know, if people want to dress up, they can, but they don't have to. If they want to play into that theme, they can. But also, if they're just there to be at an open mic, you know, I don't necessarily want the theme to overwhelm but now, you know, I'm starting to think more about, like, how do I want to use this stage time every week to, like, present something, you know? Like, why not write a 5-minute long play, you know, or skit, or, you know, like how on Mr. Show, at the beginning of Mr. Show, it's, like, always kind of the same. They kind of have the same intro, but then they'll do weird shit, like, one week they're, like, religious Bob, they have like this weird, they're like Scientologists or something. Or like the next week, they're like, they sold the show to some fucking company and it's like the whole, you know, it's like they kind of play with the form with these like fictional kind of like, I try to do stuff like that. So this next week is comedy week, right? I don't know, I'm announcing now. I've announced it. I don't know. I'm not sure if it's going to torpedo the business or not. I'm worried that if I promote it too much as Comedy Week, people are going to get discouraged and stay away. If certain people are just going to be like, oh, fuck, I'm not going that week. I don't think that's, I don't know. I hope that's not what's going to happen. I'm finding it hard to promote because most of the images of, like, comedy stuff are like, yeah, that's Lee Moore's reaction. Well, here's the other thing is, there's the KGB open mic next Wednesday, and I think the TVI open mic, the Intrusive Thoughts thing is on Monday. So it's like, there's already a lot going on as far as like other poetry open mics that week and that night. So I just thought, you know, maybe one week, why not? I think it'd just be fun. I'm not trying to discourage anybody. Like, whoever wants to come and do what you want to do, definitely. You know, like, that's what I'm afraid of. I don't want people to see it and be like, oh, it's comedy week. I'm not going. I fucking play music. I'm not going to comedy week. It's going to be like every other week, you know, except there's going to be more comedy in the mix, I would say. You know, like, because, I don't know, like, just to, you know, there's a lot of comedians that come out. I do want to give them, you know, a chance to shine, and you know, they're cool. I like, you know, I feel bad, you know, if they feel like they've been kind of, you know, had a limited, you know, spotlight or something, you know. But I just figured it'd be a fun way to kind of, you know, because there are a lot of people that come out to do it. And I like, you know, I love a lot And it's something that I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get involved with that world, and so like, I don't want the comedians to get discouraged either. I don't want them to feel like, oh, I'm never gonna go to the fucking Easy Paradise open mic because they're always gonna put me on at 12:30 when nobody's there, and that happened fast. I think that's what surprised me, and maybe I shouldn't fully be transparent about this on the internet, but that's kind of my brand. Is like I do think the comedians got there. It seemed like there was an arc where, like, early on, I was getting a lot of feedback from comedians who were like, "This is the best open mic I've ever been to," and kind of shit like that, or "It's the best open mic in New York," or "Oh man, you're a great host, you're a great open mic." But then, as over time, I think. We had to go on later. More people started showing up, so there's more competition for slots. There's a lot more musicians. I feel like have shown up over the past few months, which I think is great. But to be honest, in the early months, it felt like there weren't that many musicians per se. And so it's everything. We're trying to have everything, and I think I'm pretty fair. But it's also something that I'm very interested in as a form, and I want to like play with and be a part of and experiment with, and having sort of a laboratory to do that, of a weekly show where we can sort of set the tone and set the expectation for what stand up can be. I think that's one reason why, I mean, to be totally frank about it, one reason why maybe the audiences, and this is not an uncommon thing in New York City right now, sometimes don't react that great to certain stand-up comedians, is because, like, they should be more interesting, they should be more nuanced, they shouldn't see things in these kind of black and white terms that are like way outdated and kind of sexist or whatever, racist, or it's like they, and so I'm trying to help them do better in a way, because I know that a lot of these comedians are funny people. So they're spontaneously funny when you meet them, they're nice people, and so it's like, if we can help them, I think exposing them to poetry. Okay, here's one thing that I did want to mention that I find completely incredible, and like one of my favorite things is, like, one thing I've noticed is a number of the comedians who have performed on the open mic have also gone down to Austin, Texas, to Joe Rogan's Comedy Mothership, which is this fucking comedy club that Joe Rogan literally, like, just opened. Because that's what these comedians are doing now that they have sort of web money, right? It's like they're rebelling against, like, the New York and LA liberal audience and the snowflake audience and the woke cancel culture audience. And it's like, we're going to fucking start our own comedy club in Austin, Texas, where we can say whatever the fuck we want. And, like, what? This is a part of comedy culture, I think it, and so, Chappelle is doing the same thing in Yellow Springs, in Ohio, where I'm from. When I was in high school, we used to go to Yellow Springs on, like, day trips, because it was, like, this incredible small town that had, like, a hippie bookstore and a record store, and was, like, a really cool small college town at a skate park, like, bike paths and shit, like, in the 90s. It was undeveloped. And now Chappelle, like, owns the whole fucking town. He's, like, going to build some, like, Mondo Comedy Mothership style comedy club there where they can be transphobic and just idiots, Cro-Magnon, Rogan meatheads, and just, live in their little 90s, bad boy comedy world that's still alive. But anyway, I do think it's incredible. I'm not criticizing. This is, I think, part of what's interesting about endeavoring into comedy world is, like, this is kind of like the crossroads of the public discourse in certain ways. So anyway, a number of comedians from the open mic have performed at Joe Rogan's comedy mothership in like prominent roles. They're on like the Instagram and shit, which has like hundreds of thousands of followers. I think that is incredible that like comedians have come to the open mic, they've seen the poetry at the open mic, they performed at the open mic, and then they've been to Austin fucking Texas and performed at Joe Rogan's comedy mothership. Which is like, you know, for better or for worse, it is like one of like the nucleuses of like the comedy world in kind of a ridiculous way. I mean, these things will probably go about as far as the private wealth and interest of the people that own them. I suppose that's how it's always been. You know, these clubs are probably typically started by people who just have money who want to own a club. You know, it's no different. You know, Rodney Dangerfield had a fucking club. I was just reading about this the other day because I'm near Sheepshead Bay. Apparently there was this comedy club out here called Pips. I don't know if the guy who owned its name was Pip, but it was a similar thing. It was just like some guy had a fucking restaurant and he wanted to do fucking comedy shows. God, I've got this like fucking, my ears kind of like waxed up a little bit. Forgive me. Yeah, so fucking Joe Rogan's comedy mothership. We're 1 degree away. You know, if we can, that is my real goal. You know, as we can just, I think we can adjust. You know, there needs to be a place, like, okay, right before this, I was watching Sandra Bernhard, right? I recommend everybody who's watching this, no matter, you know, across the board, whether you like stand-up comedy or not, watch fucking Sandra Bernhard. She is fucking incredible. To be honest, she's one of my favorite comedians I've ever seen. I was just watching her on Arsenio, and she's just calling out the Republicans. She's calling out Bush for letting all the people die of AIDS. The audience is not really that into it, but she's really going for it. And she's cool. She wears cool clothes. I'm surprised that people don't, like, talk more about fucking Sandra Bernhard. Like, she's in the fucking King of Comedy, for Christ's sake. With Jerry Lewis. She's in her underwear. Jerry's all taped up. She's doing weird performance art in front of Jerry. He's taped up. He's got no choice. He has to watch. He has to watch her weird 1980s performance art. Her punk rock style updating of stand-up comedy. She's incredible. You know, it's hard for me, to be honest, especially in the modern landscape. I mean, not to talk shit about all of it, but like I just find it so uninteresting. So Saturday night was fun. I went out and met, shout out to Ben Callahan at Grizzly Pear. One of my favorites. And, you know, these guys we were talking about the kind of modern landscape, and it's like they were telling about this guy Bert Kreischer or whatever the fuck, I don't know. They're so uninteresting to me. Two Bears, One Cave or whatever the fuck it is. Tom Segura. Granted, I haven't watched any of this shit. Who would want to? I don't want to see, I see those guys and I'm like, I get why they're famous because that's what people in America look like. It's like that thing that David Lee Roth said about Elvis Costello. He said music critics like Elvis Costello and not Van Halen because music critics look like Elvis Costello. That's how comedy is. People like... not to be like a hateful person. I don't mean to judge anybody or anything, but like I'm trying. How else could you explain the popularity? These guys, the one guy's famous for performing with his shirt off, right? He's like got dad bod, which everybody loves so much, and he performs with his shirt off. Hence two bears, one cave. They've all got beards and shit. It's a macho beer drinking, but it's popular. I don't know. So anyway, yeah, we were talking about these comics. I don't know, like they're not cartoonish enough for me. I think that part of the fun for me about trying to do this is like this is why I'm kind of dressing like this. This is like my '90s kind of like alt comic, you know, out costume. You know, like I always dress in costume, various kind of costumes for whatever. And it's like, okay, I got the horizontal stripe, which is sort of the beatnik, but it's pink. I don't even know where I got this shirt, but it's incredible. And somehow it kind of matches this shirt, which my mom gave me, which is like kind of the 90s. So it's like, you know, this is my 90s like alt comedian. Like if I was at Fez or whatever, you know, this is like my... I was on the scene with, you know, when I was in the 90s watching Comedy Central, all those comedians, Janine Garofalo, Todd Barry, Sarah Silverman, you know, kind of coffee shop 90s, Tompkins Square, Jeffrey Ross. That that was my entire childhood, was just like being blasted with alt comedy. On Comedy Central. It was the only channel on TV worth watching, to be honest. Somehow. There were only 4 channels that I really watched at all in middle school. And Comedy Channel was on almost all the time. And then sometimes maybe VH1, which might have like Beyond the Music at that time, Behind the Music. Maybe MTV, that was like the TRL era. And then E Entertainment Television. I loved anything entertainment related. I loved Entertainment Tonight with John Tesh and Lisa Gibbons. I was always obsessed with that kind of shit. Celebrity news. E Entertainment Television. Talk Soup with John Henson. John Henson was one of the funniest motherfucking dudes that was ever on. I mean, cable had... It was like the lifeblood of cable TV, was like stand-up comedians. Because they could just fucking talk about anything. Best Week Ever, why don't they bring that back? Why doesn't somebody do Best Week Ever on the internet? Like, it seems like it would be perfect for like fucking TikTok or something, right? Like, it's just weird how formal media used to be, and then it immediately became totally informal. Everything before like 2013 or whatever was like pretty formal. Even these fucking like live podcast shows, like Norm Macdonald's like YouTube show, or I was just watching Artie Lang's like podcast YouTube show. It's like, it's pretty formal. They've got like a desk and like title cards and shit. Now it's just like everybody, you know, just films their shit in their living room, like with their phone. It's like everybody's in that space. It's kind of less fun. I don't know. That seemed like part of the fun for me when I was a kid, was like having those kind of like formal, you know, like you're on a talk show. There's a desk. There's got to be a desk. Otherwise, it's not a real, you know, that's part of the suspension of disbelief or whatever. Like your buy-in, your investment. That's what Kuzu Daddy is always saying. Investment. I don't know what the fuck he means. Oh, rest in peace, Vida Blue. I should mention that. One of the great names of all time, Vida Blue. Is this still my fucking playlist? I gotta check real fast. This is still my playlist. Greatest Bat Boy. Oh, yeah, it is. because I was Googling Bat Boy. One of my bits that I do on stage is I do my Bat Boy impression, which nobody understands. The problem is a lot of my jokes are like from like literally I'm doing material that like I thought of like in high school. Okay, so anyway, I should talk about Tuesday. Let me get into Tuesday because that was equally, if not. So Tuesday was the roulette reading at Unnameable. I've never read an Unnameable, which, you know, for New York poetry world right now, Unnameable is pretty much like the spot. You know, if you want to go and see a good reading any night of the week with like the best, like just like real ass motherfuckers, sort of in the avant garde, if you want to call it that, new forms, whatever. It's Unnameable. Just go to it because it's laid back. It's in a backyard. It's beautiful. They have a room at the new location entirely dedicated to poetry, and they have the best poetry selection in New York City. So it's like, it's right on the Q train too. So it's like I'm kind of connected to it in a weird way. You know, I can just get on this train, go all the way up there. And so, you know, it's a real honor to be asked to even, you know, shout out to David Kirschenbaum and Rachel Allen, who got me the gig originally at Boog City. Like, oh man, what is this? What is going on here? Koozie Daddy literally is like watching the news in the other room. I hope you can't hear that. Maybe you can. Maybe you can't even hear me. I hope you can't hear that. Yeah, so, plus, okay, so the reading was the premise, and I wasn't quite sure exactly what the rules were going to be, but the premise was it was like roulette, and there was going to be a real roulette wheel, and you're going to spin the wheel, and it's going to land, and I think it's going to land on a letter, and then the audience like picks a word starting with that letter. And then you put that word in like your search of your Google Drive or whatever, and you have to read the first poem that comes up with that word in it. Now, I don't use Google Drive really that much. My Google Drive has been at like 93% level. I've been getting warnings about I'm running out of storage pretty much for like 10 years. I basically haven't used it in 10 years. Even though it's very useful, and I don't have a problem with Google Drive, it's just I don't personally, it's been inoperable because it's been stuffed with fucking, you know, stuff from 10 years ago. And so whatever literature I have in my Google Drive is like probably way out of date and almost certainly not stuff I'd want to read in public at this point. Although, I don't know, who knows? Not only that, but like it's not really separated. Like a lot of the stuff I have are like my chapbooks or like PDFs of like maybe a collection or something where it's like it's not like individual pieces. It's like I don't really use Google Drive as like my personal, you know, word processing thing usually. I mean, I haven't. I use it sometimes to like put my chapbooks and things together. It's useful, definitely. But it was like, so I wasn't really sure, but I figured, you know what, this is like a gambling, the motif of the reading is gambling, right? And so I'm going to go into this like a gambler, and I'm going to try to stack the odds in my favor as much as I can. And so what I did was, you know, I started it way late, like I do everything. I did it at the last minute. I literally did it at 2:00. The gig was at 6:30. I started doing it at 2 because the night before I had the open mic. You know, so it's like Saturday I went out. I met those guys at Grizzly Pear. I had a great time hanging out with the comics at the bar at the Grizzly Pear. Sunday night I went out. I did 5 minutes at Producers Club. I killed. I slaughtered. I murdered. Monday night, open mic prom, for Christ's sake. I'm riding my tricycle. I'm doing all these crazy tricks, doing wheelies. You know, I'm flying off the fucking bike. No one was injured. It was totally safe. Everything, you know, I'm a professional. It was all rehearsed. It was all, you know, totally pre-planned. Nothing. And then, you know, Tuesday, I got this fucking, you know, unnameable reading. So my legs are totally tired. I'm exhausted. So Tuesday, you know, afternoon, I'm like scrambling. I created a new Gmail, and I basically threw, you know, like 30 something. I thought it was going to be a lot harder than it was. Here's my endorsement of Google Drive, is like I literally could import the ODT files, which is LibreOffice. LibreOffice, shout out to LibreOffice, which is a free word processing program. I recommend it to everybody. It's what I make all my shit on. It's basically Microsoft Word, except it's free and for the people. Socialism in action. It's communism, really. And so I could import those LibreOffice directly into Google Drive. Miraculously, none of the formatting was destroyed. Everything was intact. A miracle. With poetry especially. Usually when you convert shit or import something into something else, your lineation, everything just gets fucking destroyed. And that's really important to what I do, so it was a risk whether it was even going to come together. I'm just thinking, how the fuck am I going to do this? You know, like, I don't have a Google Drive that's going to be, I got to, you know, got to come up with something. So I threw 30 pieces that had, like, because I figured, like, the point is the search is looking for it's casting a wide net for a wide net of language. And so I just picked poems that had kind of the most diverse, interesting kind of like word menagerie and variety. And I threw in recent stuff that I felt like I could read. You know, it's like this reading was serious. It was me, it was Rachel Allen, it was Joanna Furman, who is incredible. She's an editor at Hanging Loose Press and a great poet. Really incredible. And then Edwin Torres, who's like, you know, one of the masters and like just unbelievable human being, great person, and really cool, you know, a heavyweight. They're heavyweights, you know. And I've just been in this mood with poetry. Like, I'm like, I still am doing it. I will always do it. I'll always do readings, and it's still like a, you know, a big part of my life and practice. But like, I'm coming to the realization that if I'm really gonna move ahead, you know, the kind of stuff I'm looking for is not what I'm gonna find in like the professional like game of getting a job in poetry, really. You know, like I want to make a TV show or something. You know, I want to make movies. I want to get paid to be on stage. I don't want to necessarily, you know, travel in these very tight kind of like exclusive circles. That stuff doesn't really appeal to me. I like stuff that's a little more loose and open and kind of free and like fun and for everybody, you know. So anyway, you know, I was just wondering what I'm even going to do on this fucking thing. Like, what am I going to do? Like, I'm reading with fucking these amazing poets. Like, I'll do my best, but like, you know, I'm just doing the best I can. I'm thankful. Oh my God. You know, I'm so grateful and just like, I can't even believe I'm on this. You know what I mean? That's what's kind of cool about recently is I actually have been asked to do readings recently. What I did, the Hart Crane thing, you know, I got to read on a fucking Hart Crane tribute reading with Lonely Christopher and The Friend, who are also, you know, kind of name poets. And, you know, and then I'm doing this, let me plug the People Reading Funny Things reading, May 19th. I think it's at Black Spring Books. Shout out to Is That My Daughter in there on Instagram, one of the best Instagram handles. So that'll be fun. That's like a comedy poetry show, so it's, perfect for what I'm doing right now. I'm just trying to experiment with these two forms and kind of play with both and let them kind of run together. Use the poetry with the comedy, use the comedy with the poetry, and and once again get these scenes kind of talking to each other. Get these scenes kind of so the unnameable thing. One of the things about Poetry World, right? I overheard Edwin Torres say, poetry. What does he say? I don't know if he said it feeds the soul. He probably didn't say it feeds the soul, but it pays the soul. Somebody was talking about how poetry doesn't pay any money or something, and he was like, it pays your soul. He said it like in a funny, he meant it kind of like in a funny way. And that's, so, this reading, it's unnameable. Everybody, I mean, Jim Burley's at the reading. Him and David Kirschenbaum were wearing their Mets. They have these they have Mets hats, Mets ties, and they have these jackets, that have like Mets logos and shit all over the jackets. They're like these silk, so they're wearing matching. It was incredible. As the officials who were running the thing, it was very fun. It was a fun reading, and I was so happy to be a part of it. I'm kind of good for that kind of stuff because it was the first time they were doing it. It was an experiment for them. This roulette, conceit. They're kind of, trying it out. And there weren't a lot of people at the reading. There were probably, 10 or 15. But as I'm saying, that doesn't really matter because it's poetry and, it's the depth of each of those people's experience. You know what I mean? You've got everybody in the audience is an amazing poet, or an amazing artist. And so, that is its own kind of... Plus, he live streamed it on Facebook, so you can watch the whole thing on Facebook. That's one of the things that I love about David Kirschenbaum. First of all, I think his poetry is incredible. I actually really do love his poetry. It's like, I really vibe with it a lot. He has these incredible kind of prose, long kind of things that are amazing. But full of history and information. But he's also very forward-thinking about the technical stuff. He had his phone out and he hosted it in kind of a fun way. He was kind of joking and being kind of charismatic. It wasn't like your typical poetry reading. The hosting can be kind of reticent and not really trying to be amusing or anything. Oh my God, he's watching Tucker in the other room. Did Tucker start a new show yet already or what? He's got to be on some kind of... He's got to be live streaming. Tucker's got to be on Twitch or something by now. He doesn't have a podcast yet. That's basically what his fucking show is. So, yeah, I loaded, 30 plus. I thought that was a fair selection. It wasn't like I was completely stacking the deck. There was because I was pulling stuff off my Google Drive, so there was stuff in there that was 10 years old, stuff that I wouldn't typically read. What I thought was, okay, the point of this reading is to roll the fucking roulette wheel, right? That's the point of the reading, is to spin the roulette wheel. Because that's the conceit. The fun of it is they have a real roulette wheel. We're actually going to spin it. So I thought, let me put in a bunch of shorter poems. They kind of have interesting language, a lot of funny kind of lines, funny ideas, but stuff that I wouldn't typically read. At a reading, I'll typically read poems that are like 2 to 3 minutes. That stuff kind of reads better. You can put a reading together of things that are 5 minutes long, if you have a longer set, or 8 minutes long, or 3 minutes, 2 minutes. It's harder to put a reading together of a bunch of short things. Whereas for this, I thought, okay, that'll be perfect for this, because it's like, I want to spin the wheel a bunch of times, and it's kind of like, it is a crapshoot. It's not like every poem is going to be a knockout. The point is, like, some of them, are just included because that was just the in there. So there's a certain kind of chance operation, I Ching element, or Cajun kind of like, I don't know, Tibetan Book of the Dead, bibliomancy kind of thing, which I'm into. The be unprepared school of doing things, that's kind of my vibe. So I'm kind of the perfect person to, or, I'm a good person to try this out with. So I went first. I was the first person on the first show, which is good because whatever screws up, I'm beyond embarrassment. Everything I do is so embarrassing. I've made it a style. Like this is embarrassment as style. Like everything I do is embarrassing. So like, if everything goes wrong at the reading, which like there was reverb on the microphone, I had feedback. The guy had to come out and fix it. The wheel was fucking up. Like nobody could find it. So it's like things were kind of they weren't, it wasn't, it never got, it was awesome. It was great. And to be honest, I thought the poems that came up that I read in the order that I read them was a pretty amazing reading, actually. I thought it all kind of like stylistically made sense. The first poem I read, I forget what the suggestion was, but I loaded this poem in called Collaboration with Myself, which is a poem that I wrote with AI like 10 years ago. And it was based on, I think, tweets. Although it's hard, looking at it now, it's hard for me to figure out what in the poem is stuff that it all feels like I wrote it, but it also feels like I don't remember writing it at all. And my writing style has changed a lot since then. But also the AI is regurgitating it out, so it's kind of got this kind of mangled, kind of like, the non sequiturs that the AI comes up with are just like explosive. And so I thought, in light of the current AI moment, where like ChatGPT actually kind of smoothed things out, and kind of like, is very calm the way it kind of like will recite its kind of like composed sentences and stuff. The AI used to just like really fuck shit up in a way that was incredible, like really gnarly, and just like came up with incredible poetry. And so I really like this poem, but it's not like anything I've written really in the last 5 years or something. But I thought, okay, for the spirit of this, it kind of makes sense because it was in my Google Drive, and it has a lot of interesting kind of terminology and language. It's not super long. Plus, it was just kind of, I think it holds up. It has a lot of things that I don't use anymore, as far as sentence structures and like punctuation and capital letters and whatnot. But like, it's not altogether different. I think when I did the AI experiments 10 years ago, the fragmentedness of the way that the AI spit things out was what kind of like inspired me to follow that in my own work. Because I thought, if that's what AI sounds like, then that's what the future is going to sound like. Because AI is, like the future. Is that dumb? It was that simple, folks. It was that simple. That's how I came up with my poetics. But AI is not fragmented anymore. It's quite the opposite. But it's also not as lit. Well, I don't know. It kind of is. Those short stories it came up with at my birthday were pretty hilarious. But yeah, it came up with a pretty good reading. I don't know. I mean, it was a great reading overall. I was nervous. I can't say that, like, the way that I read the stuff, I was definitely nervous, and I was kind of going too fast, and like I was kind of loud, and like holding onto the microphone in kind of a way that was like, you've got to be able to hear that. There's no way you can't hear that. hope that's not like ruining my whole shit. So I don't know. I did the best I could. You know, these readings almost go better when you aren't trying that hard. Like, I wasn't thinking about it like, oh my god, this is some make or break thing that I have to like kill it and over prepare or something. It was like, you know, that's part of my goal, like as an artist or as a performer, as an entertainer, is to just have as many shows as I can a week so I can keep going at a good clip. It's like the Easy Paradise Prom is a big show. You know, there's a lot of, you know, razzmatazz and like production that goes into that. Bam. And then the next day, it's the fucking roulette thing, which is another kind of like, you know, risky, kind of like, okay, I don't know how it's going to go. You know, if I would have done that 7 or 8 years ago, I would have been really nervous. But I just thought, you know, none of these, I don't know. I've got a lot of people that are supportive of my writing. And so I do appreciate that, you know. But I don't have a lot of professional accolades or clout, maybe. I don't know. Or I don't know. I just don't feel like that accepted by certain parts of the poetry community, maybe. But maybe everybody feels that way. You know, it's like, I'm kind of surprised I'm even on these readings, to be honest. But I like being on them. I'd like to do more. I thought I did good. You know, I didn't, like, kill. It wasn't like, oh, my God, everybody walked away going, who is that guy? But I definitely did good. You know, everybody went, okay, you're nice. You know, I read some controversial stuff. I said my thing about sucking Richard Gere's cock, and who knows how that stuff will stand the test of time. But so afterwards, we go out afterwards, as is, you know, the jolly tradition of poets, and it must be forever since time immemorial and on. We went out afterwards to Branded Saloon, which is like, you know, a couple doors down from Unnameable. And, oh God, if that Tucker Carlson shit ruins my stream, I'm going to be so mad. Maybe I'll put my headphones in the microphone. That might not work though. So anyway, we go to Branded Saloon. Most of the whole gang. Ashley, Tyler, shout out to Ashley and Tyler, Rachel, Sarah. Okay, so this, Jim Burley, David Kirschenbaum, Edwin Torres, Joanna Furman, we're sitting in two booths. Everything at Branded Saloon is super expensive, by the way. I'm not really sure because it's fucking Brooklyn, but it's more expensive than Manhattan. It's like KGB bar prices. Just kidding. It's more expensive, I think, actually. Which is like, what the fuck? This is Vanderbilt Avenue in Brooklyn. But anyway, so I didn't get anything, naturally, as is I'm trying not to drink as much. My pancreas has been acting up, so I'm trying to cut down. So anyway, I notice in the back room, there's an open mic comedy night in the back room of the Branded Saloon. So we just literally got finished with the show at Unnameable, the roulette show. And now all the poets are hanging out at Branded Saloon in the front. We've got two booths. And I notice in the back room there's a comedy show. So I go back and I sort of take a look. You know, I'm sort of watching. And it looked pretty pro. It looked like a Brooklyn, you know, the guys are wearing glasses and like, it's a little hipper and a little kind of like, you know, more stylish maybe. In Manhattan, you get more the kind of like, I don't know, like sports bro kind of comedians. Like, they're kind of more normie, but they're more like the normie in the Norm Macdonald sense. Whereas like in Brooklyn, they're more like alt comedians, sort of. There's a little more of that. But it looked pretty serious. I mean, people were laughing, and it looked like the comedians were like, really like had material and shit. So I'm like, I saw there was a bucket and stuff, but I was also kind of like, you know, I don't want to, I'm in the front with people, I don't want to get on some list or something and have everybody find out I'm doing stand up, and next thing you know I'm doing stand up in front of, everybody. Edwin Torres and Jim Burley are seeing my fucking like, I haven't been doing it that long. I do feel like I'm getting better at it, and I'm starting to find out what works for me. But I also am like, I don't know if I really want a lot of people to see what I'm doing. About half of my sets I bomb. Or I bomb about half the set, and I do pretty good about half the set, usually. I usually get about, 5. I get, like, enough laughs that I don't feel like, I run away. I don't just, like, collapse emotionally like a lot of comedians do. A lot of comedians will just, like, crumble and start attacking the audience. I don't do that, really. I'm proud to say. I'm kind of funny. And some of the stuff, like, people like that I do. So I just thought, I'm hanging out with people. So I go and I think I sat down, and maybe Sarah and she said something about what's going on back there or something. And I think I said, oh, there's a comedy thing. And so she goes back. I don't know if she had asked me, do you want to do it? And I was like, yeah. I don't know if she asked, but I was like, so she goes back to check it out, and she comes back and she's like, I signed you up. You're on next. I'm like, are you serious? That's got to be a joke. She's like, no, you're on next. I'm like, fuck. Okay, here we go. I'm ready. Let's go. I'm no longer afraid. That's like a big thing for me. Even though the room, there's probably 15 or 20 people in the room, and they're like pretty serious comedians. That can be pretty scary. You know what I mean? You're thinking, these people are going to attack me viciously if I bomb or something. Or, this could go any number of ways. This could be an Evel Knievel style flop where I just, like, completely, go tumbling in a carnage. There could be carnage. So she's like, you're on next. I'm like, oh, fuck. Okay, here we go. Let's go. I had just done it on Sunday. I did pretty good on Sunday. I got some laughs. Usually when I do things that are, like, material, people do kind of laugh at it. So it's when I go out and do my radical performance art. The audience kind of doesn't get me, They kind of get left behind or whatever. So anyway, I'm like, fine, let's do this, whatever. I'm not afraid. This is what I didn't have to pay anything. In Brooklyn, it's free. In Manhattan's $5 every fucking open mic. So I go up, and I talked about Midwood. That was like I think I started with that. Did I start with, like, an actual joke? Okay, well, I have this. I won't do my material. I'm not gonna burn my material on the stream. Okay, I need it for my act. But so I talked about Midwood, and it was like, I don't know. There was some funny stuff that happened. But then I closed. I have this bit that I do. I think I've done it on the live stream. I talked about it. My Mr. Feeney impression, basically. It's Boy Meets World: The Next Generation. Is what I've called it. It's what I've deemed it. Boy Meets World: The Next Generation is, I don't know. I'm having sort of, like, I'm just thinking it over. Like, I hope it doesn't come across as, like, a judgmental source of humor. But it's sort of it's dependent upon my Mr. Feeney impression. And so I did it, and it went over well, I gotta say. I ended strong, After my set, there was this guy down front who was doing my Mr. Feeney impression back to me. He was like, oh, nice, man, Mr. Matthew. And I was like, well, that's a good sign. If somebody's doing your shit after your set, it's like, okay, this probably is kind of working. I don't know. This podcast is partially like a diary, right? I saw a DJ on YouTube had a gig vlog of, like, his gigs at, like, school dances and shit he does, how it goes. So this is like my gig gig vlog, gig stream. So I'm recapping my gigs, my sets. This is my FR. This is my field report. My journal, my open mic journal. So, once again, you can't have a better open mic experience. I went on last. I didn't have to watch or wait at all. I didn't have to pay. I did pretty good, I finished strong. I wouldn't say that I killed, but I did good enough that I feel good about it. I feel oh, okay, people were actually laughing, in poetry, it can be, I don't know, not necessarily hard to tell how good you did, but I would say that it's rare that you kill in poetry. Maybe I don't know. That's not necessarily the goal. The poem is supposed to do that work, whereas in comedy, right, the fucking goal is to just the proof is in the pudding. It's people are either laughing their asses off or they're not, so it was cool to I had a double header. I did 2 shows in one night, That's I hate to be so one-dimensional and to be so narrow-minded, but that is my goal and my dream, right? That is my main focus, is to do as many shows and to get on stage as much as I can. Maybe live perform. Well, that was an interesting aspect of the conversation we were having the other night about, with comedians, you often see obviously there's multiple approaches, but now it's you can either really go for TikTok or Instagram Reels, social media content, or you can go for performance open mic. They said a lot of their friends, get into the fame of, getting tons of views or likes or whatever with their TikTok content or their social media content, that they don't really hit the live stuff as much. And, this was something I was thinking about, is a lot of the people that I've played with over the years, my brother or people in Audible Detonation, one of the things that they used to always say is they hated playing live. They didn't like playing live. It's they liked the studio. They like playing in the studio, and the idea that you can make a recording or something, or playing, at home, I guess, maybe with friends or something, but playing live, they just didn't like it. And it's to me, there is an element of there's going to be sort of bumps, there's going to be unexpected things, there's going to be mistakes, there's going to, especially with music, it's a lot of times it's destabilizing to play live because the acoustics are so different, the room is so different, there's people there, so it can make it a nerve-wracking kind of zero gravity discombobulating, and you just feel nervous, and I've been doing this long enough that I don't get as nervous. That is one of the reasons why doing the open mic is so important, is getting on stage every week in front of that many people for that long does kind of desensitize you to some degree. My first few years in New York were really hard. Performing were really hard because I was so nervous. Every show I did from 2014 through basically the pandemic. The pandemic just kind of clicked something psychologically where it was we all came so close to just our whole society falling apart that suddenly I wasn't as nervous anymore. It was just I spent a year in Ohio on a couch, that was my worst nightmare. So what have I got to lose, And so since the pandemic, I've been a little bit less nervous. I really hope that's not coming in. Hold on. You have headphones? have headphones? Because I'm on my live stream. Yeah. But do you have headphones? I'm sorry. I'm almost done. I'm almost done. Sorry. Okay. I'm just trying not to ruin the audio if I can. I'm only going to do 25 more minutes unless 5 people get on to watch like last time. It's Thursday night. It's a beautiful night. I'm just zonked, so I'm using this day to recuperate and kind of just like rest my muscles. I'll probably take a shower, I guess. I didn't mean to be mean or make anybody turn anything down or something, but I'm almost done. We're winding up here. Yeah, so I don't know what all this is going to add up to. You know, maybe it is smarter to focus on content, you know, and those things maybe will last longer and travel further. I mean, I love doing live performance. It does kind of take a lot of time and energy, and maybe does kind of inhibit the ability to make better content. It takes a lot of focus. It's also weird to me how the relationship to live performance has probably changed so much over the last 100, 130 years. You know, before movies, right? It was like you had to go to a fucking theater to see is it playing the shit I was watching earlier? Okay. To see anything. Or you had to go to a bar. You know, like what we're doing at Red Room that was just normal 140 years ago. You'd have to go to watch somebody play the piano in person or play guitar or something. I don't even know if they did that. I don't know if our society was structured that way, but like, you know, now it's like if you make one video, it'll travel a lot. You can become famous to everybody, you know, and that it might be easier to set up shows with a bigger audience online. I don't know. Part of what I like about live performance is there isn't as much tech intermediary. You're not talking into a phone or editing on a computer, or you know, you gotta chroma key shit on a green screen. You gotta edit the audio. You got lighting. You got sound. You got this. You got that. Live, it's like you have a PA. You might have like some lights, but the show is all you. And the gathering element also is very special. People are taking one night of their life. They could be anywhere, you know. And I think there's something about going to a place that makes you remember it. Going to a live show. I don't know. There's kind of a journey you go on, and you're moved. You know, you're moved through this experience by sitting with everyone, by listening with everyone, by emergency over, you know, like now. And so, you know, he literally hasn't been to a live thing in 3 fucking years. He's been on Zoom, you know. Still, I thought I came back to stuff late. I started doing live stuff, you know, 2 years ago, but really a lot of it about a year ago. March, Valentine's Day last year was when I kicked off. Right, is these spontaneous one-time interactions where something funny might happen. That's why there's so much annoying crowd work on the Instagram Reels. I did some crowd work on Sunday, mainly because the audience just started talking to me in the middle of my set. Stand up, like, out of her notes,
That was one of the best stand-ups I've ever seen. And then Millie Ephraim, same thing. Every time she goes up, it's super smart. See, that's what I'm trying to do with the open mic is like you know, uh, what the fuck is this? I don't know if I remember putting this on here, but I must have. I feel like my videos are like possessed or something. My playlist is just like gone off the rails. Form of kind of public discourse. And I hadn't really thought about it like that. It is language, right? It is technically. And so to see, with a lot of comedians, though, they do highlight that, but they're also not that specific necessarily. Their language isn't necessarily completely overamped and or I do think that it's sort of like that character's almost like a poet. I mean, that scene, I haven't seen the movie, but like that scene of the Joker at the open mic where he's like wearing the vest and his sleeves and he's got his notebook and he looks like a poet. You know, he looks like this romantic, his long hair and his notebook. It looks like poetry. It doesn't necessarily look like he's a stand-up comedian. He looks like fucking Shelley or something. Uh, but the movie is about a stand-up comedian, and trying to get in there and like get it to a place where it's like action. To me, what they were doing, what Daphne, Juliet Ellis, or what Millie Ephraim were doing was literary, but it wasn't literary in some kind of like try hard or conscientious way, like a Lena Dunham fucking essay, or like it didn't feel like magazine writing like that. It felt like really like actual experimenting. Like it had a lot of integrity and a lot of like that's what I feel like these comedians or these people should be striving for. Is like, what can we get inside that language, that form of like stand up, just getting up on stage talking, making people laugh, the energy of that. I love doing characters. I love doing impressions, voices, and stand up is a place that I think that invites you to be wild on stage. This was an interesting that Edmund Torres said in conversation too. Is like, as a poet, the voices are all you. Like your poem might have tons and tons of different voices in it, and they're all you. When you're reading, they're all you. I think that is true. That's something that maybe is made a little bit more literal in a comedy kind of enactment where you're actually doing voices and enacting things. But it's also kind of different when you're splitting your personality and trying to represent different people or voices or something. The poet, it is centered in their identity as they're reading in a way that's important. So, obviously, it's cool to be able to kind of do both and practice both and try to develop both and, figure out the places where they kind of overlap and spill into each other. And, conversely, trying to open up poetry a little bit and make it maybe a little more comfortable being performative or naturalistic or entertaining or that kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't know. After last week, where I kind of just like didn't really accomplish a whole lot on paper, it felt good to do 4 shows in 3 days. And then I worked last night. It was the Maureen Owens, Susie Timmons reading at Poetry Project. And I gotta say, Susie Timmons blew me away. She was amazing. She was phenomenal. She only read for like 10 minutes. At the beginning, she was like, I'm going to read for 27 minutes, like as a joke, I guess. And it was literally the shortest reading I'd probably ever seen at Poetry Project. She read for literally 10 minutes and was done. Which, first of all, like, God bless you for being so humble. You know, we were ready. I mean, people came out to see this. Those who are in the know, you know, in the East Village, you know, CeCe Timmons and Maureen Owen is like a big artistic event. Maureen Owen was great as well. It was the place to be. Check it out on YouTube. I work for the Poetry Project doing their live stream, so I'm the camera guy. I'll be back tomorrow night for the Bernadette Mayer Memorial in the sanctuary. It should be a big event. I'll be doing the camera on that. I think it's going to go for like hours. I did the Lewis Warsh Memorial. Now I'm doing the Bernadette Mayer Memorial. The camera. The Lewis Memorial was last year. It's Bernadette Mayer's 78th birthday tomorrow. So, yeah, I don't know. There are exciting. Sandra Bernhard. Like I said, I recommend anybody go out and watch Sandra Bernhard. See, this is Kevin Meaney. This is my favorite comedian, but it's his energy. He's got this kind of repressed Catholic child thing that I just like really. I don't know, for some reason. That's who I am. And he's just like the funniest guy. He's not necessarily overly political, although, you know, you can tell he's like a Democrat, probably. Oh, God damn it. I missed the skip that thing. YouTube is getting so much. Oh, I'm not doing two in a row. We can't do two in a row. The same fucking thing. Okay, here's more Boy Meets World. You know, YouTube shows so many ads. They should just void any copyright, because there's ads in the video. So whatever copyright violations there are, like, come on. The ad should pay for that. Yeah, I've got a busy week next week. It's comedy night, Monday night at Easy Paradise, open mic. Hopefully, I'm not trying to alienate anybody. Everybody should come out. It's going to be fun. I think everybody should be willing to give back to the comedians. And I don't know, we'll give them time to shine. It's not going to be different than usual, you know. I don't want anybody to hear, oh, it's comedy night. Oh, no, we're not going. Forget it. And then May 22nd will be Bob Dylan week. So get ready for that. We've got a lot of fun stuff coming up. I don't know. I got tons of emails I got to respond to. Got to get on that New York Poetry Festival schedule. Okay, is there any other business I need to attend to? I hung up some flyers last week. I don't know if I talked about that yet, but that is something I managed to accomplish. I printed out some flyers. I hung them in Williamsburg by Spoonbill. I think I hung some up in Bushwick, kind of over by Molasses, and then in Manhattan in like the East Village. My flyer, I put up this flyer on Theater for a New City because they've got a bulletin board. It says Community Bulletin Board, so I put up a flyer, and literally I went there yesterday and it had already been torn down. Like, hadn't even been up, 3 or 4 days. So I'm trying to get foot traffic off the street and just keep things fresh, keep the show alive. keep making money, keep building. My goal, I've got 1,615 Instagram followers. We just passed 1,600. We've been averaging about 100 Instagram followers a week. Usually, over the week. Each show, between like promoting the show, doing the show, and after the show, we get like 100 new followers a week. So my goal is hopefully to get 2,000 Instagram followers by, if not by the end of the month, then shortly after that, within like the next 3 weeks or something. That's my goal. I'm trying to get to 2,000. So I don't know that matters, but I'm also trying to think of other ways I can use the Instagram rather than just have it be pictures of the same space every week. How can we branch out? What are other things we can do? I love doing this, but I feel like I do need some kind of other big project or big thing in addition to the weekly open mic. I do want to say, and not to jinx it or anything, but I do want to say just at some point that I have been doing the open mic since last September, and literally I have not been sick once since November, and that I got sick at Producers Club open mic. So don't go there. I shared a joint with some comedians there, and I got sick in November, but literally that's the only time I've been sick in like a year. I got sick about this time last year at Poetry Project, some reception. I had some shumai, I think, that got me sick. I got a cold. But literally, those are the only 2 times I've been sick in the last year. Fingers crossed, knock wood. And that's doing an open mic. So literally, we are probably the cleanest, safest open mic in New York City. I literally have been doing it since September and have never once gotten sick. That's pretty nuts. In the era of COVID and over winter time, considering like if you look at how many people were in that room every week, thank you for not coming out when you're sick, staying home when you're sick, and also just like, to be honest, I would attribute to just like washing my hands and being conscientious about like what I touch. Like anytime I shake hands with somebody or touch something, I'm aware of it, and I try to wash my hands as soon as possible. Maybe that's like going, I don't wash my hands like OCD. I'm not like washing my hands like hundreds of times, but I do wash them like a good amount. And to be honest, I do think, living alone probably helped, right? A lot, but doing an open mic and not getting sick is, there should be a sign or something. It's been this many days. That's pretty good. All right, we're coming up on 2 hours. Is there anything else I need to talk about? Yeah, I don't know. I got to get some more System Lord gigs. Book me. This is something I want to say on the open mic. People out there who are performing, who are doing shows, comedians, if you're doing a show, poetry reading, if you're doing anything, music, book me. I want to do as many shows as I can. I'd love to do comedy shows. I can do 5 minutes, I can do 10 minutes, I can do 15 minutes, I can do 45 minutes, I can do an hour, I can do 2 hours. Look at me go. It's already been 2 hours. I'm still going. Poetry readings, book me. Come on. Put your money where your mouth is. Don't just thank me. Book me on something. Book me on your shows. I do, the thing that I hate about Instagram is like I do feel like I take everything the wrong way. If somebody, has a reading, I'm not a part of it, has a magazine, I'm not a part of it, is doing a show, I'm not a part of it, it just feels like you've been slighted or something. And I'm trying not to be, I think social media like hyper intensifies those kind of reactions to things. Those kind of like ego reactions in a way that I'm trying not to be as focused on. But I don't know. Instagram is a big part of doing this event, and it's cool, you know. I mean, so I feel like I've become maybe a little bit addicted. But it's like this is how we interact. This is the medium now. You know, this is television. You know, Instagram is the movies. It is literature. And so maybe it's not anymore. Maybe TikTok. Or I don't even know what the new thing is. What's the new thing? What are kids doing these days? I don't know. Only time will tell. Let's see what's up on the next video, if it's anything good. Okay. All right. Well, anyway, thank you for watching. I'm at Easy Paradise next Monday. I'll be doing open mics. Book me. You know, very funny. I'll come do my Mr. Feeney impression. I'll do my Charles Grodin. I'll do my Jim Belushi. I'll do all my impressions of people that nobody wants to see. All right. Thank you for watching. Go back and you know, start it again. It was a gig recap. It was a good week for gigs, and just get out there. You know, if you want to do it, just go do it. It's fun. It's just fun to live it. You know, the material success hopefully will materialize. You know, soon. I'm manifesting. I'm visualizing.